There's a big difference between 99% and 100. I always thought that I was giving 100%. I wasn't, but I was only 1% from making that money, from being where I want to be, from having everything in life that I've ever dreamed of. But it's that 1% that we sleep on. That's why it's so easy to be great nowadays, because most motherfuckers are weak. I was a loser. I call myself a born loser. I don't feel that way now, but that's how I felt a long time ago. And I made the decision to go all the way in. And a lot of us have this mindset of balanced. It's important. We all have family. A lot of us have kids. A lot of us have wives, husbands, moms, dads, brothers, sisters, all that shit. But if you want to be part of that 1%, which I know all of you want to be, I'm sorry to say, you got to throw that balance shit in the wind. The only way you can do it is if you go all the way in and talk to your family and say, I'll be home, but not today. So the thing about it is, the unbalanced mind allows you to do everything at a level that most can't even fathom. So it's all about that mindset of how hard you want to go. And a lot of people come up here and talk to you about a lot of bullshit, and they go home and they write to motivate you. Right now, I'm a 47-year-old smoke jumper out of British Columbia. I took 5 days off of jumping fires. I'm a retired man, got a shit ton of money, but it ain't enough. I still must grind. It's never enough. There's zero finish line. Because once again, you all are here for a reason. The way I build belief, I have to do it at that level because the darkness in which I came from. I get it from hours and hours and days and decades of being in the grind. So when my time comes, when I fail and I fail and I fail, I go back to that big ass belief that I've built myself, and I know I will fucking make it. There's a big difference between 99% and 100. I always thought that I was giving 100%. I wasn't, but I was only 1% from making that money, from being where I want to be, from having everything in life that I've ever dreamed of. But it's that 1% that we sleep on. It's that 1% that we wake up in that morning, we're like, you know what? Not today, maybe tomorrow. Well, guess what? That's why it's so easy to be great nowadays, because most motherfuckers are weak. I was born with nothing, but I realized that most people are lazy. So a lot of people, let's say out of 10%, let's say the average human being has 10%. Let's give me 2%. I know the average human being is gonna shit away 9 of that 10%. So if I utilize my 2%, I just fuck you up. It's never the leader. It's always the fucking first follower that starts all this shit. Most of us never even think about it because we don't believe it's even in our arena. We think greatness is Michael Jordan or Tom Brady or Serena Williams, wherever the fuck it is. People have a lot of money. You have to put that shit in your Rolodex. Until you start to think that way, whatever you think about, trust me, it will become exactly who the fuck you are. It's not the 130 hours that get you. It's the 450,000 seconds. And you only got to fuck up on one of them. The first thing I do with fear is I study it. I study the fuck out of it. I've been afraid of a lot of things in my life. I still am. I study the fuck out of my fear. And once you study the fear, you realize 9 times out of 10, it's just anxiety. Something that you got to get the fuck over. Fear is only a second. Anxiety is what lasts for a long time. Fear is some of the unknown shit. I became a genius at the shit I was afraid of. Therefore, the fear became my bitch. And that's a true statement, my friend. Try one more time. Hey, man, I know you're there. I know you ain't going nowhere. But you have to control every decision you make in your life. Those demons are going to always be there. And that's exactly why I go back to building that belief, because they always want to break you back down. It's not a permanent solution, but it's how you talk to them now. The conversation wants to be dictated by those demons. When you're fat, you're not where you want to be, you're not successful, those demons won that very conversation. You gotta make sure that when you go to bed at night, you're net positive. A lot of times I wake up and I'm negative. And my shit's all fucked up. I make sure before I tuck myself into bed at night, I'm in the black. I'm not in the red. So that demon may get a hold of me before I go to bed though. I make sure to put that motherfucker to bed. And I'm the motherfucker under the bed that he's fucking scared of. So that's how you can have that mindset, man. How the fuck you can have discipline when you don't know where to put that shit? Shut your phone off, shut the fucking TVs off, shut the world off, and tune into you. So if you want that balance, you have to suffer while everybody else does not. The second you start living civilized, it's over. It's fucking over. You want to keep that savage as long as you can. So you got to go on that witch hunt to find whatever it is that makes you tick. And whenever that tick goes away, you got to find another thing that makes you tick. And you got to keep that up for as long as you can, because there will be an end game. This is how it is. But you got to keep that fucking, like, I guarantee you, if you put more thought and more pen to paper, you'll find something that you haven't done that if you really think about it, you truly want to do.
Yep.
And that will re-energize your inner beast. So it might take some time.
For sure.
But you'll find it. And your feelings are the one thing in life that will hurt you from moving forward. Whatever you're putting out, you're going to get the exact return. You'll find shit in this last go around you never thought was even in you. You'll find inhumane shit if it's really your last shot. So I'm going to tell you right now, if it's your real last shot, you'll make it. What is your mission statement to yourself? You don't have one.
No.
I do. Whenever I get lost on my mission and I get off the journey, I go back to my mission statement on why the fuck am I even doing any of this shit? And you put it in there. So I would advise you to do is you're now just living willy-nilly, which is why we get lost. Don't ever live just to wake up, kiss the wife, kiss the kids, and punch the clock. You gotta have a mission statement on why you're actually really here. But if you're not your best self, you're giving your family a half-assed person. That's why I tell people, figure yourself out first before you start to go and be attached to a family. One day you'll sleep, but not today. You gotta have that mindset. You gotta be hungry, man. I never talked about my dad being crazy or I couldn't read, I couldn't write. I got held back in my second grade.
No matter what you're going through right now, whether you're 7 years old or 77 years old, those things don't define you.
My mom didn't know how bad my grades were. She never saw one report card. I hit everything from, and she didn't even ask. She was so bogged down with life. And so I got away with a lot of shit because her mind was occupied. So it made me honestly a weaker person. So I scammed life. I had to study for hours. What might take you an hour to learn, take me 2 days. But I'm fixing everything on the surface. I'm not going into the fucking dungeon. I'm that now, but I wasn't born that.
Yeah.
I had to make myself into this shit. But buddy, every fucking day in that dirty mirror, that accountability mirror was no more. That accountability mirror, let's just fucking shave my head and go to work. But I saw my reflection every day. But I really didn't know how fat I was. I didn't really want to look at myself. But I was haunted. These demons were in my head every day. Man, you ain't shit, man. God, dog, man. You wear this fucking uniform, you get in your fucking Ecolab truck, you go spray for cockroaches, you fucking go in the kitchens, you eat your fucking brownies and shit in the back kitchen, you make shakes and shit while you're in there, man. I was like, fuck, man. And I always knew in the back of my mind I could be something special, but I knew the work it was gonna take was gonna kill me. I was afraid of that. I was afraid of the brutality and the suffering I was gonna have to endure. But I knew I could do something. I don't hide. I'll tell you exactly who the fuck I am. I will admit to it. People are great at hiding. So they want to just find peace. No, you gotta take your shit, fix whatever's fucked up in you. Don't just shove it under the rug, fix it, and then you'll find some peace later. I needed that to start the war. Wow. Without that, The celebration was, I can start the war now. It wasn't that I won the war. I can start my war. I had to change one thing, my mindset. So there's no way in hell that was in me, but that guy was in me. It wasn't like God came down here and said, hey, guess what, man? You're a fat ass, but I'm gonna now make you a badass. I'm gonna miracle this shit to be a badass. No, it was in me. I had to believe and make that belief work. Doing what inspired you. That suck factor is now real. You can't just get off your fucking couch and get a fucking shake or get a fucking box of donuts or turn the TV or go take a shit or a piss or go get your girlfriend to cuddle up. No, you're now there. And only those people who have been there a million times in their minds and have lived in that water and have suffered a million times and realize my legs may break, my knee may break, my bones will hurt. I will be the coldest I've been in my life. I will be miserable and accept that. Because what happens is when you get in a horrible situation in life, your mind, I call it my 1 second decision. When you get in a horrible situation in life, your mind immediately says, get the f out of here. Everybody's does, even if you want to be there. But it starts to have all these different questions in your mind in that 1 second. You have to be there but not there at the graduation.
Okay.
You gotta be there in the worst parts,
the suffering
that you know over and over again. You gotta live that in your mind. I wanna see what you're made of. I wanna see almost like the Colosseum in Rome. Let's fucking go to the fucking Colosseum. And the only way to see who the baddest motherfucker is to suffer. You can't do it by writing a paper. So let's go, because why? What I found out through my life was I thought of myself as some weak little bitch kid. And what I found out, and the only message I want to get across to people is once you change one thing, your mindset, you can attack everything. And I find it fascinating. I'm fascinated because I'll be in these moments. Do I like suffering? I like suffering in the way that is competitive, that brings out the absolute best in me and in everybody else. And there's very few that are willing to go there more than once. A lot of people, even people who've gone through special ops, it kicks the shit out of them to a point where in their mind, what got me bad in pararescue was when I was going through it, I said, I'm only gonna do this one time. And so many people in special ops, whether they believe it or not, in anything, special ops in anything, that's hard, I'm only doing this one time. Once you say that, you f yourself. What I realized in my life is that Goggins is who I love. Goggins is who I created. My dad created David Goggins. I created Goggins. What's motivating you is the fucking stories I'm telling you about what I did in my life. Once I stop living that, I'm no more.
Yes.
I am not the fucker that you are now being motivated from. What changed me was I had to be hard on myself. And I have to continue to grind myself into a fine dust. And I said, I might quit, but not yet. I became truth. There was no more lie. And what's funny about all that is the people in my life who were in my life when I was bad, and I call it bad, I wasn't bad. I had a fucked up way to go, man. They're still out there, and they know what the fuck I'm saying. I ain't gonna drop names on them. They want to take me back there. They're mad that I'm here.
Yes.
They want to still make me out to be what I was.
Right.
They don't like the fact that they're still where the fuck they're at.
That's right.
They hate that. I made it. And I know all of you motherfuckers are looking just like Apollo Creed did, because I just kept getting the fuck up. And all I wanted people to do in my life, I don't care about the fucking money. I don't care about the fucking fame. I don't care if all my followers go away tomorrow. I wanted a lot of people that doubted me to look like Apollo Creed did in that 14th round, because I got back up repeatedly. And when you keep on getting back up like that, no matter how strong the person is that's beating the shit out of you, they eventually look at you and say, you know what, I'm tired. And I just want people to be tired.
Trying to justify what they see now with what they knew for so many years. I was newly married and we had a baby. It was just an infant, and I was working. We were in a little town called Alpine, Tennessee, and there was a Berkline furniture factory there that made recliners, and I was working in the shipping and was not happy. Didn't like the job.
What age are you here?
Oh, I was 26. And was reading Western Horseman, and there was a ad in the back in the classifieds about an elk hunting lodge in Idaho that was offering you could come out, and if you would work for the summer for free, they would teach you packing. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm doing it. I'm taking the jump. I'm not spending the rest of my life working in a factory and sitting here and doing this. I'm going to go chase the dream that I've had since I was a child. So I stayed there and just started calling every ranch, every dude ranch, every outfit, every day, calling. I ran out of money, and the lady who owned that campground there, she told me, she said, my dad needs somebody to haul hay. So I went and helped him, and he paid me $15 for hauling hay like this. Came back another night, stayed, another supper. Next day she said, if you'll police the campground for cigarette butts, I'll give you a bowl of soup and a sandwich and another night's stay. So I did, and then the next day one of the outfits called me back, came in, sat down and interviewed, and I threw my bedroll and everything into the back of their truck and went out and went to work. Angry, there's no benefit to it. You know, it doesn't fix anything. Even when you're in a fight, and I was in law enforcement for a while, even when you're in a fight, if you get angry in the fight, yeah, maybe your adrenaline comes up, but you lose your head. You know, you lose your strategy. And, you know, anger, it just turned out, I'm like, this is not profitable. And this is eating me up inside. And I'm making stupid decisions. And this has just got to end. Did I accomplish anything today? No. But I didn't wreck anything today. And sometimes that's a victory. Sometimes the biggest victory is, you know, I didn't make a mess today. It was a good day. And I finally had to start figuring that out. Wisdom is predominantly not something that you do. If you study the book of Proverbs in the Bible, okay, if you study Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, and you study these wisdom writings, there's much more of the wisdom writings that are telling you things not to do than there are telling you need to do this to be wise. But more of it is, if you're wise, you won't do this. Humans don't know how to communicate. Communication is our biggest weakness. We have to move into the world and learn to speak, but learn to think how they think. Well, I mean, we can say men and women are the same thing. You know, the women are different from men. They have a different way of thinking. And like I said, my wife, I've been married almost 34 years. And even today, there's things I say, and she absolutely, what she heard is not what I said, you know? And so I have to, and vice versa. You know, so communication, and you cannot have 34 years of relationship with one person if there's no communication. Well, it becomes unvirtuous when your help of others is about you. I do this because it makes me feel better. I do this because it gives me purpose in life. I do this because you're going to like me more, or you're going to respect me more. That's where it becomes a problem. But it's not a problem if it's just, you know, empathy, stepping outside of the norm of trying to physically control something that isn't ideal. I'm going to suggest to you that you decide it's in your best interest for you to pick your head up. And we go for the mind. But you want to make things so that they decide that if this is what Chris wants done, it's in my best interest, I want to go do that. You pick the tune, and I'll pick the dance. You need to pay attention, dummy, and not do that again. You can pick a fight and you can win. Some of them. And when you're older and you're busted up, I got plates and screws in my neck and I got joints are out of shape and stuff, you're not going to win that fight anyhow. Not physically anymore. And so that's where you start saying, you know what, I need to approach this in a better way. I think young men need to know that, hey, it's okay for you to sit down and to read and have a cigar and to chill and to think. Because I guarantee if you're in the weight room pumping out all these reps and running on the machine, and then you're going into the cubicle and you flip open a computer and you're not thinking, you're learning, you're taking in, but you're not meditating on stuff and you're not thinking. But that can be taken so far that young men are made to feel guilty for just sitting down and thinking and relaxing.
I think type A people have a type B problem, and type B people have a type A problem. Insecure overachievers need to learn how to chill out and relax, and lazy people need to learn how to work harder and be disciplined. Given that you subscribe to me, I'm going to guess you're probably type A, some version of a walking anxiety disorder harnessed for productivity, as Andrew Wilkinson says. Here's the thing you may have already realized. Type A people with a type B problem get very little sympathy, because a miserable but outwardly successful person always appears to be in a much more preferential position than the content being lazy but on the verge of being bankrupt person. The problems of opportunity will always get less sympathy than ones of scarcity. One feels like a choice, the other like a limitation. One is a bourgeois luxury, the other a systemic imposition. I need someone to teach me how to be disciplined and work harder feels noble and upward aiming and charitable. I need someone to teach me how to switch off and relax feels dopaminergic and addicted and transactional and opulent. Every underdog movie ever has a training montage of someone working their life out by working harder. None included a guy learning how to log out of Slack at 6 p.m. or finally enjoy a beach holiday. So yes, type A people may have objectively better lives, but subjectively, they're ravaged by the sense that they've never done enough. They wake up every morning feeling as if they've already fallen behind, and only if they dominate their entire day flawlessly will they have dragged themselves back up to some minimum level of acceptable output, which means they can go to sleep that night without feeling like they've wasted it. Congratulations, you might be very successful, but you might also be very miserable. Just work harder, bro. Advice reliably makes everyone more successful in the only way that they can be judged: outwardly. There are very few issues in life which can't be solved by just working harder, so everybody treats it like a panacea, not a purpose-built tool. And, on average, maybe more people do need to hear David Goggins shouting in their face to go harder, rather than Eckhart Tolle whispering in their ear that they are already enough. But, for a certain, perhaps minority cohort of people, they actually need to hear the opposite message. We need a parasympathetic Goggins. Who's going to carry the TV remote and the cigars? Hashtag rest harder than me. Type B problems are just as tough as Type A ones, but they require a much less sexy solution: peace, one that you can't achieve by just working harder.
I want to see them find balance. I don't want to see them find money. I don't want to see them find six packs. If that is part of the result of it, fine, okay? But I want them to find balance, and I want them to find that place inside where they're like, my main thing is my main thing and it's enough. A good man is a man who can protect and who can provide and who can serve, who can comfort, who can reprimand, who can discipline, whatever's necessary to make the world a little better because he passed through. And brother, let me tell you, in this day and age, we don't need more weak men. But why do I need to do that to make myself the man I need to be for those around me? Why do I need to say, you know what, I need to spend more time in the backyard with a cigar? Why do I need to do that? And if the answer is because I'm becoming overwhelmed, overtight, losing my balance, losing my focus on what really matters in life, I'm becoming hard to live with to those that I care the most about, to those who I am the most responsible for. So the why is, this will make me a better person for those around me. Me being able to bench press 200 pounds as opposed to 180 pounds does not necessarily make me a better person for those that I'm here to serve. It feeds my ego. So maybe a little more time in the gym doesn't answer the why, and a little more time in the backyard with my kids, that gives me a better answer to the why do I need to make this choice as opposed to that choice. And maybe that's a little more accessible to a young man without a lot of experience. Okay, there is no business out there that I can take on. There is no monetary endeavor that I can take on that is worth the gamble of me losing me. It took me years of a lot of grief and pain and work to get to be who I am today in spite of who I was. And I don't want to lose that. I don't want to lose myself in business. I don't want to lose myself in trying to earn a better living, in trying to get a name, in trying to do this. It's like I have turned down so much because I've looked at it and I've asked myself, who's this going to make me be? Who's this going to turn me into? Even a little bit. And it's like, it's just not worth it. It's not worth it. And so I'm right now trying to find the balance in undertaking something that's not going to alter me, that I'm not going to lose myself, and then not succeeding at something because I was too afraid to try it, which has never been an issue with me before. I've never been afraid of failure before. But now I've got something I don't want to lose, and that's myself that I actually like, a me that I actually like. Find somebody that you like, that you genuinely like, and figure out what it is about them you like. I like that. That's something I like. That person is, they're understanding, they're gentle, they're hardworking, they're honest, they're this. This is what I like about that, and incorporate that stuff into your own life. If that's the stuff you like, then incorporate that stuff into who you are. And then you like yourself. There's 10,000 times more going on inside the head of a man than you have any idea. He's carrying burdens that you don't have a clue about. And he don't know how to express them. And he don't know what to do about it. And he figures if he puts it out there and communicates it, he's just going to be shot down, called a fool, called weak. So he carries it inside. And you have no clue the burdens and the hell that most men are carrying inside and not even showing you. The average real man does not need to go get therapy for the battles and the burdens he's carrying inside. What he needs is for those that he's carrying them for to recognize that they're there and to respect it and to be grateful for it. We can say things that are not necessarily blatantly offensive, but we can say it in a real belligerent, aggressive tone. And all they hear is the tone. They didn't even hear the words.
The message.
That's right. They don't even hear the words. If you don't have the backbone as a husband and as a father to be the bad guy, you've got no business being a father or a husband. There's times when you have to know this is not a good direction for my marriage, for my family. And everybody's going to be mad at me. My wife is going to be mad at me. My kids are going to hate me. But in the long run, this is a very bad direction. And I'm putting my foot down and we're not doing that. And you become the bad guy. But you do it for the long-term strength and safety of the family. A man's most valuable, most important resource is his good name. If a man ain't got a good name, he ain't got nothing. So don't lie. Be respectful. Be respectful to others. Be respectful to your elders. Even if they're not respectable, they still been through life enough. Their position earns them what their behavior won't. This is where I am. This is what I got. This is what my good day's going to look like.
If we were to look at ourselves through the lens of an experiment, like we would an animal experiment, we think that animal is sick. If you saw an animal digging in the corner, looking for a bone, the dog is looking, and you'd think, that's really sad. That's us. If you're very, very stressed, you're very, very upset, two things happen. One, it's very hard to take your focus off whatever it is that's upsetting you. And if you don't know what's upsetting you, pure anxiety, but you don't know why, it's very hard to take your mind off of the feelings of anxiety. In those states of mind, there's another component, which is that for whatever reason, and no one really understands why this is, it feels as if the state that you're in will go on forever. Now, when we're in happy, relaxed states, rarely do we think, gosh, this is going to go on forever. And yet when we are in these unfortunate states of mind, we get the idea somehow, it sort of hijacks our perception of time, and we feel like this is never going to stop. If we turn to the body and certain behaviors, we talk about what those are, we are able to move ourselves along the autonomic continuum. And at that point, when we've done that successfully, and it's actually quite straightforward to do, we are able to think about things differently. We start to get a sense that the way we feel might not be the way we're going to feel forever. And it's in those shifts that we start to realize, my mind actually is not my best friend at these extremes, but there's a lot more to it. You're only getting the tip of the iceberg in those states. So that's why I say, if you can't control the mind with the mind, look to the body to control the mind. But you become exquisitely good at measuring small detailed changes in whatever it is that you happen to be looking at. Now, there's an internal process too, which is that the aperture on your thinking also becomes very, very narrow. This map of space, time, and closeness needs to be fractured. And the only way to do that is for the brain to have to confront the reality, which is that whether by death or by breakup, they are no longer available. We learn how to tamp that down. What is tamping down? It's reducing our heart rate. It's going to work each day, being a functional human being. There's a lot of that, rather than allowing ourselves to, sob uncontrollably into a pillow. The better that we can lean into the emotional states that we fear the most, but in a controlled way where we're not harming ourselves or other people, the better. The more that we try and avoid that, and we try and sublimate or just, and I've done this, so I'm speaking from experience, I would use the anger or the sadness from an experience to just work 10 times longer, 10 times harder, to just get that much more focus. You're taking that autonomic arousal, that narrow aperture and that energy, and you're putting it onto something that moves your life forward. So in some cases that's good because you still need to function. But it can give you here I'll just say, it gave me the illusion that I was working through something because you get all the accoutrements and rewards of hard work. But what you don't do is remap that space-time closeness map. And then I guarantee you find yourself 5 or 10 years later wondering why you're so exhausted or why certain things in life aren't going well. And it's because when they say you haven't dealt with the loss, you never actually allowed yourself to feel the feelings. But once you do, it's like a valve, it releases. Dopamine is about novelty, surprise, and the sense that we are on some exciting track. That's what dopamine is really about. It puts us into states of readiness, anticipation, looking, seeking, etc., almost always for things outside the confines of our skin. And then what happens is you start getting the system working for that next dopamine hit that you don't know when it's going to come. It's just like gambling. The more time away from something, the more positively reinforcing it will be when you return. Better to say nothing than to let somebody down. If everyone is rewarded, every child is rewarded regardless of how well they performed, if they're all rewarded to the same level, you actually flatten the dopamine curve. And so in that sense, yes, everyone might feel celebrated, but you actually are lowering motivation for the given activity. This is why hard work followed by reward, great. Working hard on a relationship and then it gets better, or there's a breakthrough, whatever it is, that is powerfully positive. There are certain activities like cold water that create long-lasting arcs of dopamine. Those can be very useful for putting us into long-lasting motivational states. There are so many pitfalls, and by pitfalls what I mean are energy sinks. Across the day, from the time you wake up until you go to sleep at night, there's so many places for you to put your energy. When I wake up, I make a beeline for sunlight. So I'm going to get sunlight in my eyes. I'll probably go into the grave saying this, so forgive me if people have heard me say this before, but the single best thing you can do for your sleep, your energy, your mood, your wakefulness, your metabolism is to get natural light in your eyes early in the day. Go running for 30 to 45 minutes. Or if I'm feeling a little bit lazier, because I always find the high intensity stuff to be easier than the long drawn out stuff, I'll sometimes throw on a weight vest, a 30 or 50 pound weight vest, and I'll go out for a shorter run. I keep my phone out or off for most workouts. Podcasts maybe if I'm running, but I really try hard when I'm working out to just focus on the workout. And those workouts, the weight training workouts, are always 10 minutes or so of warm up, and then no more than 40 to 50 minutes of really hard work. If I do train hard any longer, I don't recover enough to be able to come in a few days later. And when I train that way, I generally make pretty consistent progress. So some people might look at this and say, wait, you're working for an hour in the morning and 30 minutes here and an hour in the afternoon. When are you actually working? But it's really about the depth of the trench when you're working. And so if I'm going to drop into something again for a few hours in the afternoon, I'm really going to drop into it. And that's typically phone off and out of the room. And my goal is to get to the evening time so that I can do the things that I want in the evening. I can enjoy, I'm always setting a goal of the next time block. So this is something I've been doing for a long time, but even more so lately. I don't think my goal in the next hour is to do blank. I think this is dopamine reward predictions in action. I think, okay, if I get this workout done, then I'll be able to eat at more or less the same time, which I enjoy, and then something else will happen. So I'm very focused on what I'm doing, but I'm doing it for the purposes of opening up the next door to the next thing. And listen, this adrenaline thing, this dopamine thing is no joke. This is the stuff of human evolution, right? These are the same neurochemicals. This is the energy drink of human evolution. This is not the Rockstar Red Bull, etc. That stuff just hijacks this very system. I'm not saying it's bad, it's just feeding this very same system. So if you find an eating schedule or a fasting schedule that allows you to tap into that as a resource, I don't care what anyone says about whether or not fasting will make you live longer or not. Who knows, right? If you're in the control group, you know what's going to happen. So, but presumably everyone dies eventually. So pick your mode of eating, be my guest. But if you've figured out a way to tap into this in a way that works for you, by all means leverage that. Because until somebody comes along and says that intermittent fasting is unhealthy, well then to me it seems, at least for me, eating between 11 a.m.-ish and 8 p.m.-ish is great. And what I can also tell you is that having a consistent meal schedule, meaning a feeding window, we absolutely know, I don't know why this isn't discussed more, we absolutely know that helps anchor your sleep schedule. And having a anchored sleep schedule helps anchor your light viewing schedule. And a light viewing, so it all starts to piece together. I would get up, I would hydrate, and I would immediately exercise. I would use that early, peaking of the cortisol response that comes with waking to get the body into action. The Tuesday, you've done your weight training on Monday, and you want to do your heat and cold. You don't have time to optimize everything perfectly. You could say, okay, I'm going to do my heat and cold at 10 a.m. or 8 a.m. You get in the sauna for 20 minutes or so, and then you get into the cold for 3 minutes. And then you might get into the sauna again for 10 minutes, and you get in the cold for another minute or so. You end on cold.
Yes.
Why? Because it'll wake you up, and presumably you want to be woken up for the day. Now, there is what I call the Soberg principle, which is if you are using deliberate cold exposure to increase metabolism, end on cold. So finish on the cold, not just because it wakes you up more, but because then you have to heat your body up naturally, which is a thermogenic metabolic response. So end with cold, and if you really want to push it, you can do things like don't use a towel, use evaporation, spread out your limbs and don't huddle so that you have to shiver more, etc. I mean, there are a lot of little games you can play. But let's say you want to reduce post-exercise inflammation. You're not concerned with hypertrophy gains, muscle size gains or strength gains. Well, then get in the cold after your workout. Do that for some people can do 10 minutes, reduce inflammation. Let's say you really want to hit growth hormone, which is what you asked. The biggest effects of sauna on growth hormone, and they are big effects, are when the sauna is only done once per week, but it's done in 4 cycles or sets, we could say, of 30 minutes each. So that means 30 minutes in the sauna at the temperatures I described before, then a 5-minute break, just air cooling off, or 10-minute break, then back into the sauna for 30 minutes.
This is brutal.
Then again in the afternoon, 30 minutes in the sauna, then 10 minutes just air cooling off, and then back into the sauna for 30 minutes. So that's 2 hours at 187 to 212 degrees.
In one day.
In one day.
With a maximum of what, less than sort of 20 minutes of rest in between those little sessions, then the big rest in between.
So you have to be very careful, right? Heat can kill you. You got to hydrate. You need to make sure you get enough salt. Like it, I mean, this is work, right? But you see in these human studies up to 16-fold increases in growth hormone. So you can imagine this could exert some very strong reparative effect if you're training for a big event or endurance event, or maybe you're just really wiped out from the week. This is a stressor, but it's a stressor that delivers a potent growth hormone response. Light, exercise, temperature, both heat and cold, are all very powerful stimuli for creating hormonal and neuromodulator dopamine epinephrine effects. When it's inevitable, and it will inevitably arrive, that stress grows us, that it really sharpens decision making. It really sharpens decision making. And you know, if you have a very stressful event and then you recover from it, the worst thing to do is just go and keep going. You need to take some time and reflect about what led into that. And for me, learning and kind of seeking kind of calms that somehow, as does training, as does skateboarding. I did boxing. Of course, head damage isn't good, so I stopped boxing. But that's always been in me. That's how my nervous system kind of tilts left in that way. I'm able to tap into kind of some old hurts and angers as fuel, but I really try and orient towards things in a very Lex Friedman-ish way, from a place of like
show them love.
Show them, do things from a place of love, because it's a more continual resource. I really believe it's this dopamine epinephrine cycle, positive feedback cycle. I really do. And so that's all there.